Hi, everybody. My name is Marissa Henderson, and today I'm going to walk you through a payroll demonstration with Acumatica. So what I'm going to show you here is a few different ways in order to do your payroll. We're going to look at doing it for a union, doing it from a time card, or even putting in a payroll for someone who is salary. So to start, we're here on the Acumatica employee time card screen. I have one employee, Hannah, sitting here in the system, and she has a time card in for one project for regular hours of 40 hours per week and an additional line for overtime of 10 hours per week. You see here that she's also attached to a union. So we're going to look at how all of this flows together. So if you have an employee who has filled out their time card, and it sits in the status of release, you're able to go through and immediately pull that into the payroll. So let's get started. So if I start over here on the payroll batches, which begins here in our payroll workspace, this is where we are here under our transactions category. Then we're just going to fill it out. So my rule of thumb, fill out your summary section first and then go down to your detail level and you'll see all you need to see there. So my batch ID, the system's going to generate that for me, and my status is always going to sit here on hold to start with so I don't accidentally release anything before I'm ready. I have two options. I have regular payroll type or a special. So you have your payroll calendar already set up when you configure your system, and that will go along in the regular category. However, if there is a special check, someone gets a bonus or something like that, you can use the special payroll type, and that'll allow you to process another payroll in that same time period. So the way the system is set up, if you try to do another payroll to a regular category after you've already done one for that same time period, it won't let you. So it's a nice little safety feature so you don't accidentally overpay someone. So we're just going to do a regular payroll, and we're going to choose our pay group. So we have three set up in our demo environment, but it really depends on you as the customer. So if, for example, you do not need multiple pay groups, you don't have to have them. Rule of thumb that I like to tell our customers is that if you have everyone being paid according to the same pay period, whether they're salary or they are hourly folks, you can just have one pay group. And then we would show you how to process one payroll and filter it out to pull in time cards for people who are hourly and just pull in their salary for folks who don't actually need a time card. So to start, I'm going to pull in that one employee, Hannah, who filled out her time card in that pay group. And then I'm going to come up here and enter the pay period. So I'm going to click my magnifying glass and I'm going to find that same pay period. So she fell into this pay period, period number 19. You can give it a description. So you can say the payroll for pay date 5/12. And here under the employee tab, I'm going to add bulk employees. So this allows me to quickly pull in everyone who filled out either a time card or anyone who needs to be pulled in via their salary. And you can also do sales commissions as well. So everyone is automatically selected when they pull in, but I'm going to click toggle selected to unselect because I'm only going to pull in Hannah's time card. So I'm going to pull Hannah in. And I'm going to say, don't pull her in based on what we set up for her as far as salary. Pull her time in based on what she put on an actual time card. Once you have that, you can click add and close, and it will pull her in. So she has 50 hours in the system at a rate of $66 an hour for this total amount. And if you click on your earning tab here, it's going to allow you to see the details of what actually happened here. So let's let it refresh really quickly. And there we go. And so now you can see those same details. So you see her 40 hours of regular time, and then you see the one line for overtime, and it calculates it automatically here. We see that she's attached to a union local here, and you can see the details of the project task, and the cost code that it's attached to, as well as workman's compensation codes. So you see for her 40 hours, she has the 5604, but for the overtime, it pulled in the 49s. It just is the way you set it up in the system. So if that is incorrect, you can come in here and change it. Anything you pull in here, whether it's via a time card or salary, you can manually change it here. All right, let's go ahead and save our payroll batch and remove our hold and release. So once we have her payroll batch release, you're going to come back here to the employee tab and you'll see she has a paycheck reference number. But we're not done. We're going to put her in as a time card, but we're also going to pull in some people who are salary. So you can see how that looks. So even if you have people who are attached to separate pay groups, you can still pull in two separate batches and process them all together. So let's click this plus sign to add a new one. We're going to keep our payroll type as regular and let's pull in some monthly folks. So let's pull them in for, let's say we're going to pay them for the month of April. And we'll just do the April monthly salaries. And the same thing, we're going to add bulk employees. The only difference is we're not going to do time cards. Our salary folks do not have to fill out a time card. So we're going to choose the option of pre-populate with employee defaults, otherwise known as quick pay. That's simply saying whatever you put in as their compensation attached to their record in the system, it's going to pull that time in. So we have all of their rates sitting here. And you can also see the same thing on the earning tab. You can see their details here as well. All right. And we're going to follow those same steps, removing the hold and releasing it. So now we have two different pay groups processed in the system in the same screen, but we can process this together. So we're going to move back here to the Payroll Workspace and let's process these payroll documents. So what we're going to do here is we are going to calculate. So we have their gross pay in the system. We have our four folks. We have Hannah to start with as our hourly person. And then these three right here is our salary folks. So we're going to select all these folks and we're going to click process. So what it's doing is taking their gross pay and it is looking at their deductions and their benefits and their taxes as they are set up in the system and finding the net amount due. You can also see up here that you have this little icon. This little icon lets you know that you can set this screen up on a schedule. So in the payroll workspace, you have 4 steps when processing your payroll, just the minimum steps that you have to do. The first and the last step, you will not see that there. It's just a safety feature because you want to pull in the right people for the right amounts. And the last step is releasing it to your general ledger. So those 2 steps won't allow you to put it on a schedule, but actually calculating their payroll like this screen shows us here, you can set that on a schedule and even putting it into the payment form, whether ACH or check. Those 2 are on a schedule as well. Again, those are on a schedule because you can quickly correct something without it having to do a full backing out of your ledger. So it's a nice option if you have quite a few people in the system. You can process your documents whenever you want to, and based on the schedule here, it will pull them in and calculate them. We see here on our process screen that everything is processed successfully. So that's awesome. Let's close it. And now let's process these payroll payments. So we're going to click on create payroll payment. And when we come here, we're going to choose our payment method. Are they being paid by check? These folks are being paid by FedWire. And we're going to pull in our cash account. They're being paid via this cash account, and we see all of their information here. So let's just take a look at one. Let's take a look at Hannah, for example. So once you pull them in, you always want to check their deductions, their benefits, their taxes, make sure everything is processed correctly. And you can do that in that screen by clicking on this reference number, which is a hyperlink to your paychecks and adjustment screen. So it will show you your individual person, the hours that we saw on that earning tab in the previous screen. And then you can look at their deductions, make sure everything is calculating correctly. You can look at their benefits, look at their taxes, and make sure everything is flowing properly. Now, Hannah is attached to a union, so you can see here her union benefits are listed here as well. So as long as everything's set up in the system, everything should be good to go. So you see here her deduction amount is $85.80 for her dues for this particular union. And you can come up here and see that as well. So if we go to the union local screen, this is the same union she's attached to. And she is set up as a foreman in the system at $60 an hour. So that's why that amount pulled in. But you also have your deductions and benefits for this specific union listed here. And this is where the system's calculating that. So 2.6% of her gross pay is pulling in that amount. And we see that actually listed here. So if we pull this up, you can see the difference here. So if we were to pull in, let's take out our calculator, make sure everything is right. That's what we'd be doing for payroll. 2.6%. 85.80, and that's exactly what we have here. So as long as everything's set up, you are good to go. So let's come back here to our create payroll payment. and let's just process them. So we're going to select them all. We have another processing window shows up. And again, we have our little scheduler here. So you can schedule to do that, but it doesn't pay people automatically, not until you get here to your last step, which is your payment batch screen. You notice the scheduler is not here because this is going to process a payment via sending it out ACH and releasing it to your ledger. So this is where you want to physically put your hands on it. If you notice down here under batch details, you have quite a few lines in here, and you see a number of these folks are doubled up. The reason is because you can allow people to split their paychecks. You can allow them to put a certain amount in a number of different accounts, and that's what these three folks have listed here. So you'll see the multiple lines, but they're always attached to the one employee. So that's how they decided to split up their paycheck. So when you're ready, you can come over here and click your three little dots and you can click export. You also have export as pre-note when you are doing payroll for the first time for an employee, a new hire, to make sure that their account number and their routing number is correct. Once that is done, you'll see the ACH file that you're sending to your bank generates here, and Acumatica is already set up to do notch a file, so that's already configured for you, but just get with us if you have any changes that your bank requires, and it's not automatically set up that way in the system. So once you have that, you send it on over to your bank. Your bank says everything is good, and you're going to confirm that the payments are correct. So once you've done that, your status is paid. Once your status shifts to paid, now you can release it. So you can release your paychecks. And now what it's doing is it's pushing all of the information in the payroll module over to your finance module so that it sits on your general ledger. So you see your descriptions get updated here first. And once it's finished, your status is going to shift to release down at the bottom. And the status here in the summary section is going to shift to close. And once it does, you do have the option in Acumatica to lock down the system so that even though it shifts to the general ledger, people can't see the details of who got what paycheck. It will just say this description right here, but it will not include the employee name. All right, so once this is done, we will shift on over to the finance workspace and see how that looks. And there we go, release and close. So let's move on over here to finance. And we're going to look at our journal transaction screen. And we see our paychecks listed here. So we see this is the one we had for Hannah. She's a weekly person, and everybody who got paid for the month listed here in the posted status. So let's click on one. And you'll see the description here. Again, you cannot see the name of the person because we've locked it down in the system. And you even look at the bottom, we have due to and due from set up in the system. So wonderful feature in Acumatica is that you can purchase intercompany mapping. So if you have several branches or several companies, instead of having to do a payroll run for each of those companies, each of those branches, if you get the intercompany mapping, you can set that up so that you can run one payroll and it will shift the actual amounts to the right place it should be going to. So it's a very nice feature, saves hours of time having to do these separately. You can do them all at once and they will hit in the correct places. All right, so the last thing I wanted to show you as far as where it hits is on our project screen. So we had Hannah's time shifting on over to the Jordan High School project. So if I come over here to my activity screen on the project, I can see Hannah's time listed here. So we have her 10 hours of overtime here, and we see the 40 hours of her work listed there, and you see her time here as well. And you can also see the details as far as how much is hitting the project. So if I come down here to my cost budget, I can see we put her time on the general requirements line for labor. Scroll on over to my right and I will see my actual amounts listed here. But if I click on view transactions, it will show me in a pop-up window the details of what happened here. So I can see all of her time is listed here, but I can also see all of her payroll liabilities. So I can see the health benefits, the taxes, all of that good stuff is listed here. Okay. The last thing that you would want to do in payroll is you want to pay your liabilities. So if we navigate back here to the Payroll Workspace and under our processes category, create liabilities bills, The system has automatically for our unions, for all of our taxes, any deduction, any benefit, any taxes that you set up in the system, you do not have to create an AP bill in the system in order to pay them. You don't have to manually track via Excel spreadsheets anymore. Once you configure your payroll properly, all of your taxes for every single employee will be calculated correctly, and it pushes to your payables workspace. You can even filter this here. You can say, I want my benefits to be paid, because maybe you don't pay your taxes every single paycheck run. I'm going to pay all my benefits. I'm going to pay all my deductions, and I can process those when I want to. And then maybe once a quarter or once a year, I'm going to go back and do my taxes, however you wish to do it. So let's say we want to process maybe just, we just want to pay these. We just want to pay these right here. You can click process. Our processing window shows up and it pushes it to the actual payables workspace. Another thing to keep in mind, you don't have to do this manually. You can put this on a schedule. So you can do that too. So let's go to our payables workspace, open our bills and adjustment screen, and now we have it sitting here. So we have it sitting here in the balance status. So when I come here, I can just open it up and release it, or I can release it in the release AP document screen. So your AP person does not have to worry about where this came from. Is it right? You as the payroll person know it's correct. It is hitting everything the way it should be hitting. It again does not show anyone's name, so no one sees the actual benefits or deductions or taxes associated with each person. And you go ahead and you release your AP bill in the system. So everything is processed. That is a full payroll run in Acumatica. Keep in mind, it's just for demonstration purposes, so we didn't go too deep into the union locals, but you can also do certified projects as well. There's a lot of different ways that you can do your payroll. Very simple, very easy. Once you have it set up, it can save you hours of time depending on which program you're coming from. So if you have any questions about it, please reach out to us and we'd be happy to do a live demonstration for you. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we will see you in our next video.